Hello, welcome back to BSLIVE. In this episode, I want to kind of get a little bit deeper with an add-on called BoxCutter, and I really want to dig philosophy about like a box, just any kind of design that's basically based on box shape. And I have to look at some art for inspirations, like this by Mondrian, just kind of like maybe a 2D surface being cut into multiple boxes. This is maybe has its own algorithm in a way, but I think architectural 3D box box shaped buildings are probably better to kind of study about box shape a little bit more. Like they look really modern, and I'm also looking at like a container living house based on a container. It's actually very interesting. I've been to a couple of a cafe based on just box shape design. So I'm not like an architect, so but I really like how you can easily cut box shape into something that's a little bit more interesting, and from that minimalist shape you can then design you can add like different materials and things like that. But I think, yeah, I think there's something about it. But so I will just, for this I will just be using the box shape, and then we know what BoxCutter already does. Like I've barely scratched what BoxCutter can do, but I actually start to understand a couple of the tools a little bit more. So like for example, so we have the first mode, um, which is a cut. Basically, if you have this box and you made a cut like that, so that's kind of doing the opposite of normal extrusion without having to worry about topology. It's basically because underneath it's basically just a boolean, but it's really powerful way of working, because you can just slice through anything. And normally it's a good idea to turn on cavity while working with BoxCutter so you can see the geometry better. And by default it is set to non-destructive, and if you look at the modifier, it's all booleans happening on the original box shape or our cube, and there's like a bunch of this cutter. And this is actually, because this is non-destructive, this is actually live, which means if you turn on all the cutter, you can always go back, you can make some kind of editing, and everything will update accordingly. So this is really powerful way of working, just to get into the shape, or just put your idea into real 3D geometry. It's a different type of modeling. Maybe not everyone will find this to be easy, but I think most people will find it easy anyway compared to the normal way of modeling. And if you're happy with the shape, you can always apply modifier. So it's gonna apply all the modifiers, and then at this point, really, you probably you might start to worry about the topology. But if you are just want to have fun with the thinking about the design and the form and the geometry, normally I just apply remesh. Remesh will really cubify the shape, and after you remesh you can just simplify, so you can have quite nice rounded shape all over. Some people might don't like this, but I actually quite like this bevel kind of look. Or maybe after you remesh, you use bevel, a little bit cleaner. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. So anyway, always start with a box. This is just an idea. It can be quite meditative. So in this mode, with the box selected, you go to BoxCutter mode, turn on BoxCutter. So originally it's off. You select an object and then turn on BoxCutter. And then I want to show you a couple more tools like slice. Actually, slice is doing a slice. Basically, it leaves the objects that you're slicing, and then you can scale it. And it works really well if you are actually working with a cube. Just like, oh, you need to select the object first. Okay, select the objects, select this slicer, and then you can select this slice, and then you scale it. It works really well for that kind of design, getting that kind of shape. And then the next one will be inset. I found it inset is actually useful if you just want to add a little bit of depth. Oops, select the objects and inset it. I think you cannot go too far. It will just make based on certain distance, but it's kind of keep doing that if you keep cutting in. So that's already kind of interesting looking design very quickly. You can switch to non-destructive mode if you don't want to see all this history. I can just apply it. Okay, apply, and then continue on. We have join, knife, extract, make. What I want to show you is probably what's the most interesting is this extract feature. So we have this, and if I want to just extract this part, that deep, right? What happened next will surprise you. It's basically how BoxCutter can use this extracted part as a slicer. Oops, only if it actually works. It should work. Let me try. So create another cube, and then BoxCutter and try to make a cut based on that. Oh, it seems to be doing something, but it's not. I'm not seeing it. Could be a bug or limitations of, or maybe this shape is not particularly good shape. Let me try again. Delete everything. Delete all this hierarchy of cutters. Start again with a cube. Let's see. We're gonna make a cut. Instead of custom, we're gonna use the normal box shape. So if I want to actually to have something that's to work with, maybe like turn this into like some kind of container, right? Suddenly we have this. It's like a room, like a small room apartment, and then you want to make, for example, like a window, and maybe some kind of hole around here. Maybe you're gonna put the bed here, or maybe like study table. Maybe add a bit of design up here. Maybe give it a hole up here for a bit of sun, right? So this is actually starting to make sense. It's as a room, even though it's a very basic design. And add some decoration. You can even cut slice corner like that. And if you want to add details like what I said, maybe try something like this thing over here. We can use the extract. So we're gonna extract this part. Hopefully this works. So I'm extracting that part and then reusing it as a cutter. So this time it works. Oh, actually, Okay, yeah. Sometimes that happens. That means it finds like a tricky part to cut. So it's probably could be a bug, but when it works really well. Just to add a quick detailing. So maybe on the top here, I want to have that kind of detail. Maybe turn off non-destructive and just turn on destructive. So that works. So this one failed, but you get the idea. All right, so the next thing that's interesting with BoxCutter will be if you are working in a non-destructive mode. And let's switch back to box. Delete all the cutter. And let's see, with this guy, I'll try to make another cut. Before I finish with this cut, I can actually hit tab to go to edit mode, and look at this. You have all these dots that you can pull and play around with to adjust the shape of the cutter. I think this is very powerful. And then on top of this, you have these blue dots, so you can adjust the bevel. And then the scroll actually allow you to make it rounded. And then you hit right click, I think. Yeah, right click to finish the cut. Oh, actually, right click actually get rid of it. Ah, interesting. Do it again. So you have this shape, hit edit, make it rounded, adjust the roundedness. And okay, if I'm happy, I think I hit enter. Okay, enter actually make the cut. Yeah, so that kind of thing actually give the bevel a really nice rounded corner. So I found this to be quite interesting, very nice. Hard to explain, but you can always go back to the cutter, right? And then you can adjust it a little bit more, and then even if you want more, you can actually select these objects, go into edit mode, and then perhaps adding your own bevel. Maybe I need to select the edges. So maybe select one of the edge over there, and then give it a mark. Maybe what's the F3, and then mark for the bevel. So edge bevel weight. So I can add a bit of weight there. Go back to object mode, switch to non-wireframe. Wait a minute. So I have that bevel. Thanks to this guy, the cutter itself actually have bevel modifier, and you can play around with this value to adjust the bevel, which will affect the object underneath. So you can see that you can further adjust the bevel itself until you get the shape you want. It's a little bit tricky, but you get the idea. Rounded, just a rounded cutter, it's adding a lot into your design. So yeah, let's get started again from scratch. Delete everything. So this shouldn't be like too stressful or anything. It's like I said, it should be like kind of meditative. BoxCutter. It's an add-on that you pay. It's around $20. And I'm still learning about this BoxCutter add-on, but it's really powerful. I just cannot emphasize. You know that you can actually do this without the add-on itself, as long as you're just doing a lot of booleans. But BoxCutter and all the way of the interface of BoxCutter is like 100% genius. I really believe that. So it's like, if you don't have BoxCutter and then you want to do a boolean, you know, in Blender, you can always do this, and then you create boolean, and you want to minus this guy with this guy. So that's exactly what you should do. This is cube number 1, this is cube number 2, minus cube number 1 with cube number 2, and then hide cube number 2. So that's basically what BoxCutter is doing underneath. But the interface is really fascinating for me. So you can, with BoxCutter, you can just do things like this very quickly. Like select the objects and then make a cut. Make a cut like that. And then sometimes you don't want the deep cut, you just want to have a little bit just for detailing. And this, like I said, this is only barely scratching of what BoxCutter really can do. There are plenty of videos from the developer, Master Sion. Yeah, some of the modeling seems like he made it so simple, but it's actually quite advanced type of modeling. Normally, I don't think this is like the normal way of modeling, because normally, if let's say you want to model a chair in Blender, or like a table, you might start with a plane and then you extrude up, things like that. So you start with a plane and then you go to edit mode and then you extrude it. Extrude is probably the basic kind of for modeling. You can at this point maybe thinking, okay, I will make booleans. That's totally fine also. But maybe you are thinking, okay, you need to maybe use knife or make a grid subdivisions if you want. So F3, I use this a lot. Functions, I'm more like a functions kind of person. And with subdivisions, then you want to cut like that. And then after you do that, you go to switch to face mode, and then you extrude up, and you got like some kind of oriental table upside down, R, Y, 180. So, but if you're thinking in the term of BoxCutter, you start with a shape, the bounding box of the model, and then you just do a cut. I mean, yeah, of course you want to be more like a little bit more precise with where you place the cutter, but I'm just showing you an example. It's like more like doing it the opposite way, like you work with the negative area, and it's actually quite an advanced kind of thinking. Yeah, so what is this? A chess go table, something. But this is like two different kind of ways of working. And then with this guy, of course, you still have this boolean, and then you look at the cutter. Okay, cutter number 13, cutter number 14. You can always turn it on, and then you adjust it. So this part is really powerful. So it's almost like non-destructive as well. I've been trying to do this with nodes based like sphere chalk. Sphere chalk is actually really good. If only sphere chalk can kind of work a little bit better with the interface of BoxCutter, maybe I will use sphere chalk more. Like, because BoxCutter itself is already like kind of like a very clever hack over Blender modifier with the interface. So sphere chalk needs to work in such a way that it's like a modifier for BoxCutter. Hard to explain, but it will make sense one day. So delete everything. So this is like, I keep saying meditative. Why? Because you can just start Blender, right? If you have BoxCutter add-on, you simply just start cutting. Like I said, this kind of geometry shape, kind of like a small mini apartment, or it's like a box container. This is already quite something. And then you start adding thing like kind of window shape, something. Maybe this can be like a table, place your food, or this can be like goes in a little bit. This can be like a stair, and you want to have a bit of windows. And the roof, you want an open roof, so that's nice. And you can add a bit of detailing design. Yeah, this is already kind of like a room, and you can test it out as AR, for example. But normally for AR, like you have all this history. I'm gonna kill all of them, and then maybe, like I said, remesh it, just block, and then subdivide, and then you have this rounded corner kind of look. Some might like it, some don't, but I found this to be quite modern, all this rounded shape. And then you can hit apply. Maybe if you can continue with the sculpting and then turn on dynamic topology and start to mess around with it. I've done this before, but I found this still quite meditative. This is like totally distracting the box shape, but it looks really organic. So it's kind of, I don't know what it is. It's you create box shapes, you just remove some parts, and then you just have fun with it. The dynamic really adding this weird kind of triangulated organic detail. Probably good for maybe like video game or movie where you just want to have kind of like slightly distracted architecture. Oh, if only this works with a UV and material, then I found that it's gonna be more interesting. I think BoxCutter comes with another add-on. I forgot the name, but you can paint maybe kind of like adding decal on top of the other material. Like whenever you make a cut, it's gonna give a different material, things like that. Maybe, but yeah, something like this. If you're happy with it, it's still like a pretty clean. And then if I want to do just a quick job, F3 Smart UV project. This is the laziest way to add a UV, but it will work sometimes. Oh, it's already have material. Okay, file, save as, meditative BoxCutter. Okay. Simply goes into the shader editor, assign it some kind of texture, J displacement. Okay, I have this random displacement. Can assign it to the base color or the metallic. Probably a little bit too detailed, but still, why not? Desktop. Okay, desktop. J displays. assign it to metallic and roughness, or roughness and metallic. Yeah, slightly a little bit too rounded and looks like miniature, but it's okay. Just a test. And you can also plug this into the normal. Let's try exporting this out. Oh, actually, it might take a while because it's this is like 8K in size. But I think I can just stop over here and export the objects into AR later. Yeah, it's a quick BoxCutter. Once again, BoxCutter is really quite advanced, can be quite advanced modeling tool, but it is also super easy to use. There's even option like array, and then there's like symmetry. There's more things like bevel operations. It's like a very, like I said, a really genius, very clever interface over Blender modifier. And it's actually really powerful because it's creating a new kind of language for modeling. So yeah, I highly recommend you this add-on. It's not free, of course, but the benefit is really good. Like if you're doing models like based on a box, or even not just a box, you can make like a circular cut. BoxCutter is your add-on. I think definitely a must-have in Blender. Otherwise, you can never think of modeling this way. All right, but other than that, it's really, if you're even like, if you're not a 3D modeler, you can just use it like for meditation. You play a nice music, make a like random cut. Once you're done, you have something based on a cube, and then you export it out. You have one design, and do this every day for a year, for example, and you're gonna end up with hundreds of different box. And you look at it a year later, and you're gonna look at it and like, oh wow, I made all this cutting. And you can make like maybe an array of random box cutting. It's gonna be, it's something you can use, for game or